I'm Sherda from Projector Sewing, and I'm so happy to tell you about Pattern Projector today. If you've been using another PDF reader to project your patterns for sewing, this is a game changer. If you want to learn how to use Pattern Projector for sewing and cutting out those patterns, then you're in the right place. Make sure to watch all the way to the end so you don't miss any of these amazing features. If you haven't heard about Pattern Projector before, you can download it directly from anything with a web browser or access to the internet. It is available as a web page, but you can also download it to your device to be able to use it offline and for easy access. To do that, just go to patternprojector.com. And once you're there, if you want to just use it on the web page, you can click on Start Calibrating and it will calibrate right in your web browser. But I do highly recommend going ahead and install this app to your desktop. Once you go ahead and click Install, it's going to go ahead and say, for the best experience, try using Google Chrome. However, if you're on an Android phone device, sometimes Firefox might work better. This web app can be downloaded and used on any device that can download apps or access the internet, including phones and Chromebooks. However, for the best experience, I do highly recommend it be used on a computer due to the screen size. But iPads and Chromebooks do also work. Once you have it installed on your computer or your device, you'll just go ahead and double click on the app to open up the first screen. Now, you will have a default open up for calibrating, and you can reset your calibration at any time by using the reset button. I've already entered in numbers here, so your numbers might appear different. This is the calibration page, and the page you will start with when you use Pattern Projector and your projector for the first time. Once you have calibrated your projector, it will save this information, so anytime that you open up this page, you can just quickly check your calibration and get on to cutting your patterns. No need to calibrate every single time unless you are moving your projector around and need to adjust it. On this calibration page, I want to first look at a few things. This first one is our full screen mode. You do want to calibrate in full screen mode anytime you are working with Pattern Projector. So go ahead and make sure you click on that full screen mode. You can also hide the top menu at any time by clicking on the arrow to hide it up if you need to see your full screen, and bringing it back down when you need. If you find the white background with the black lines are hard to see when you are calibrating your projector, try inverting the colors. We have the black with the neon green and black with white, and then the white background with black lines. Choose which one you can see best on your mat. Next, up at the top, we have a W and an H. This refers to dimensions on your cutting mat. The W refers to the width of the image or the width of a mat. And this refers to, just like you would have a projector set up on a screen if you thought it was up in the screen. Although this is the long side, we call it the width for those mathematicians out there. When you adjust this number, it will adjust how wide that image is. The height is for measuring the height or the vertical distance of this calibration page. You can also work in inches or centimeters, depending on what your mat is marked in or what measuring tool you will be using. I use inches, so I'm going to go ahead and click inches. At any time, if you want to reset your calibration and bring that entire square back to the center of your screen, go ahead and just push the trash can, and it's going to center that square back in so you can find all of those corners and start calibrating. This tool here that has all the arrows on it refers to this move tool over at the right-hand side of the screen. These can help you to move each of the 4 corners if you're having trouble getting them precise with your mouse or by tapping on your screen. You can also hide that if you don't want to see it by clicking on it. Click again and it will appear. This project button is once you are finished calibrating, we'll go ahead and click on that to move over to projecting our patterns. The info page here will give you lots of information on how to use Pattern Projector and also how to support the creator of Pattern Projector, Courtney, and support her in her endeavors to make this tool better. I highly recommend you check that out. You can also see messages from Courtney by clicking on the mail, and she's going to explain a little bit more about her and how you can ask for more features. But most importantly, you can also donate here. She is doing this on without charging, and it is free, always free, but she does rely on your support. So make sure you come through, you check it out, and do donate if you appreciate her software. Calibration is an entire tutorial on its own. I'll link a video here that overviews calibration. I also go over calibration in detail with my projector, walking you through step by step in my Master Projector Sewing, the Complete Projector Confidence course. You'll find a link for that course in the description below. Now, once you have calibrated your projector for sewing, you are ready to start projecting patterns. And before you've done that, make sure you are in full screen mode. That is the button on the far left. Make sure you're in that full screen mode. And we're going to come over to project. But let me show you for a second. If you click project and you get this calibration warning, that means you probably were not in the same full screen mode or out of full screen mode when you calibrated it. So you just want to click collect or check calibration, enter that full screen mode again, and push project. Once you get here, you can go back to the calibrate screen at any time by pushing the calibrate. And then click project again, and we're going to open up PDF, and this will open up any pattern that is on your device. When you first open up your pattern, it may look a little crazy. Also, when you open up a pattern, you're going to get this message. The window size has changed. Just when you open a pattern, it exits full screen. So just come back and push enter full screen again, and that message will go away. At any time, you can push your escape key to exit full screen or click on the button on the far left to exit full screen. We're going to go ahead and enter it again. And since this pattern had layers, the layers will automatically show here on the left. You can push this arrow to drop that menu. And this button here that looks like a paper or a stack, they're layered on top of each other. If you click on again, it's going to show your layer menu. Usually when you're coming in, you only want to see a few layers at a time. So I find it the fastest is to hide all and then just select usually the instructions that say keep selected or instructions, and then the size that I need. And then you can go ahead and close that menu. And we're going to come across the buttons here on the top. This first one is our invert colors. If you click on it, the first one you're going to get is this black background with the neon green. Click it again, you're going to get white with a black background. And click it again, you're going to be back to normal. Invert colors do work best on patterns that have a black line. On some patterns, you're not going to see all the lines invert. You will still get that black background, but some patterns, depending how they're made, may not invert all the way to that green and that white. So just keep that in mind. It just depends how the pattern was made and designed. To the right of the invert colors, we have overlay options, and these are optional things that you can put on top of your pattern here. And disabled will turn everything off, but we don't have anything on right now. So the first one is a grid. It's just a 1-inch grid. You can use this to check your calibration or to cut things a certain dimension, but that's just a 1-inch grid. If I turn that off and turn on the border, this is going to show you the area that you've calibrated. It's always a great idea to try to stick within that area, but everything outside of it should still be mostly calibrated. But it's just if you want that border on so you can see what you've calibrated to. I'm going to turn that off. This paper sheet is really just for quick calibration. You can see I can move my pattern around, and this outline of this 11 by 8.5 does not move. But if you want to grab a piece of paper and just quickly check that your pattern is, or your pattern projector is calibrated correctly with your projector, just grab a piece of paper and slide it right in there to match it up and see if it's correct. Next on here we have flip lines, and I'm going to use these flip lines when we start talking about these flip options over here, so I will come right back to it. And also the wrong side, it's going to show you when something is flipped to the wrong side. And again, I will show you these as we get over here a little bit more. All right, these next options are really great. It's a line weight. If you click on it, you're going to see lots of options on how thick you can make the lines. And this is for any patterns that maybe the lines are not thick enough for you to see on your projector, or for those A0 files that weren't optimized for projector and you really need to thicken those lines. You can just click on it, and you can see it thickens every line, including the text. So the text will get in there, and it can get pretty thick. And this is helpful if you started out with really thin lines. Obviously, I probably wouldn't want to cut something that thick for accuracy purposes. But if a pattern did not start out with very thick lines, you can go pretty thick on these lines. You'll also notice when I leave my mouse and I'm not moving for a long time, these menus will disappear. Just move your mouse or click anywhere and they will come right back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here for a little bit, and we're going to watch those go ahead and disappear. Okay, now I can see my full screen. I might be cutting out a pattern at this time. When I'm ready to come back and grab that menu again, don't worry, all you have to do is wiggle your mouse and it comes right back up.
Hey, I just want to jump in here for one quick second. If you're new to learning how to use a projector for cutting out those sewing patterns, I know the information can be absolutely overwhelming, and you can be wondering if you're missing some important steps. That's why I created the Master Projector Sewing Complete Projector Confidence course. In this course, I guide you step by step through getting started using a projector for sewing. I'll show you how to choose a projector that's right for your space, get it set up, calibrate, and start projecting those patterns with confidence. In this course, you'll find everything you need to go from using and taping paper patterns to projecting patterns onto fabric with confidence. So if you're ready to stop floundering around, wondering how you can get started using a projector for sewing, then check out the link in the description below. Now let's get back to learning about Pattern Projector.
All right, some of the options over here. First, we have flip horizontally. It does have a shortcut key, which is just the letter H, and it can flip the pattern horizontally. Now, this is where this overlay option of the wrong side comes in handy, so you can be reminded when you have flipped your pattern pieces. This would be exactly if you were working with a paper pattern piece and you wanted to flip it over and cut it out that way. You can now go ahead and mirror it or flip it over. These red dots show us on Pattern Projector that you have flipped it. This is the wrong side of the pattern. And you can also tell that all the writing is backwards as well. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that back. Another option you can do, and lots of these don't have to be mirrored. Let me go ahead and move this piece over here. If I wanted to pull up these flip lines, let me pull up these flip lines, and I actually wanted to unfold a pattern piece. Let's come down here to something that was cut on the fold. So let's say I wanted to cut this one on the fold and it wasn't unfolded. I wanted to unfold it. You're not going to be able to see very well in here. It flips right along this center line right here. You can see it's now on the wrong side. It's flipped over. So if you had a pattern that was still cut on the fold, but you wanted to cut it flat, you could line up that fold line right here with the red line here, and then you can flip it horizontally and it's going to flip right along that line so that you can continue cutting. No extra work needed in an outside program. You can just flip it over right here. All right, you can also flip vertically up and down, and that will be helpful, especially if you have rotated and you lined it up this way. You had your fold line down the long ways of your cutting table. And we can go ahead and flip vertically as well, or push the shortcut V. And we flip it over and it will unfold it, or you can cut a mirrored piece, a pattern piece here. So again, that it rotates 90 degrees at a time, and you can do that for there. This next one, center and reset. Let's go ahead and turn off these flip lines here for a second. The center and reset is really helpful if you want to kind of get back to where you started in the center of the pattern, or maybe you've lost the pattern on the page. You can come ahead and just push center and reset, and it's going to open right back up to the center of the pattern. Now, if you're having a hard time reading something, if you hover your mouse over the text, it will magnify so that you can see it. But if you also wanted to kind of zoom in and see something a little better, you could use this magnify button. It has a shortcut, the letter M, and you can zoom right in onto a pattern so that you can see it a little bit easier. So again, just click on it and zoom where you want to zoom in. If you're hovering over writing, it will enlarge it for you, even without the magnifying. So you can see it's kind of magnifying those written parts just because I'm hovering my mouse over them. But another option is to push the magnify button. I like this next one, this zoom out tool, because sometimes I'm looking for a specific pattern piece and I'm wondering where it is on my pattern layout. You can just go ahead and click on this zoom or push the letter Z. And you can see it shows this purple outline where you are on your pattern. So if I was cutting out these pocket pieces, but I really wanted to come down and do the sleeve pattern, I can go ahead and just click right on that, and it's going to jump to that pattern piece. And I can rotate it, put it on my cutting table, and start cutting how I would like to. So nifty tool for that zoom out button. All right, this line tool is going to change the way you sew with a projector. First, it can just make marks wherever you want. If you want to just grab a mark and put it on your pattern, each time you click on that, you can make different marks. So you can see I'm just kind of marking on there, drawing a line. It does always draw a straight line, but this is great for if you are cutting pattern pieces that are larger than your projection, then you can make marks on it to help you line up your pattern. And that's kind of a whole tutorial for another day. You can also go ahead and once you have those lines on there, there's going to be a menu that pops up here on the left. And right now it shows me that I have 5 lines drawn because I do. The one that is selected is the one that has the arrows around it. And that's how we're going to use these menus. So first, you can just delete the lines. And I'll go to the next one. I'm going to delete, 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 delete. That menu disappears. Click on it, and you're going to draw a line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. And I can adjust it. It's going to tell you the degrees that it is and how long it is in inches here. Okay. So let's go. Let's put it at there. About 1.5 inches here. Now, what we can do, there are a few things that you can do.
One more time, I just wanted to jump in here and remind you that you do not have to flounder around trying to figure out how you can go from taping paper patterns to using a projector for sewing. If you're looking for somebody to guide your hand through the process, then you need to check out my course, Master Projector Sewing Complete Projector Confidence course. You'll find a link in the description below. Now let's get back to learning more about Pattern Projector.
So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. With this line tool, you could go ahead and draw a line on each of the pattern pieces where the grain line is. So if I come here and I'm drawing on the grain line for each of these pattern pieces. Okay, just lining it up with the grain line for each of these pattern pieces. There's a grain line here on this one. You could do it for all of the pattern pieces that you are cutting out. So maybe all the options of the pattern, if it has several options, put a line on each of the patterns. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up to click on a line. Let's see. Let's start on. Was that my first one? I'm not even sure if that was the first one or not. Let's say I'm going to start on this one right here, and I go ahead and cut that pattern piece out, and you can even align that to the center of your screen here. So that will align it to the center of the screen. Now I could come over here, I could click on this line here, and I can align it to the center of the screen. Even if I kind of rotate it, my pattern. Okay, I want to align it to the center. Do you see how it made it horizontally? So let me show you that again. Okay, let's say I rotated that pattern, but my grain line is going up and down. And I want all my grain lines going horizontally here. Okay, click back on the line tool. I'm going to click on my line here. I'm going to say align it to the center. You see, I rotated it and it aligned it right there to the center on my page. You can also go through each line. So I drew a line on each of my pattern pieces. And if I click on that line here, and let's go to the previous piece that I cut out. So I just cut out this one. I'm done with it. I'm going to go to the next line. So we're going to go to the next line and bring that to the center. So I'm going to bring that line to the center. I cut that piece out. And when I cut that piece out, I don't want to come back to this pattern piece anymore. I already cut it out. I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to go to the next line and bring the next line in the center. Go ahead and cut that pattern piece out. And then I could delete that line too. And then I'm going to go to the next line again. Go to the next line, cut it out. And I could delete that when I'm done. Go to the next line and bring it to the center. So if I add that line onto each of my pattern pieces that I want to cut out, that will help you to keep track of what did you cut out already. And so you're not losing track of that at all. Really helpful tool. Now, let's say that we had a pattern now that had a grain line maybe that was at the diagonal. Okay, let's say I had a grain line that was going diagonal this way, and I needed to maybe flip along that line or unfold it or center it maybe on this. So there are a few things we can do. One, we can align that to the center. Now it's going to take that grain line and align that grain line with the grain line on your fabric. It rotates it for you to that 45-degree angle. Okay, so let me show you that again. Okay, let's go ahead and let's center and reset our pattern. Okay, I don't have any pattern pieces on here that the grain line is on the 45-degree angle, so that's why I'm just kind of pretending it has a 45-degree angle on there. So let's say this grain line was going this direction on this page and it wasn't lined up with the rest of the grain lines on the patterns. Again, I can just draw a line, I can align it to the center, and it's rotated that to the 45 degrees so that it's still cut on the grain line. If I had lined up my fabric so the grain line is going horizontally, then I can still have that there. It's also great because you can now flip along that line too. So let me make sure I have wrong sides on. Yep. And so maybe I have it at that 45-degree angles, or you have it vertically or horizontally. Either one is fine. I'm going to click on that line, and now we're going to go ahead and flip along that line. And it's flipped. It flipped right along that line right there is where it flipped the pattern from. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that line. And I'm going to go to my next line here. So that is on my grain line. If I needed to flip this pattern piece right along the grain line, I can just flip it right along the line. Okay. So that shows you how you can unfold it based on where you draw the line. Now this next tool is my favorite for lengthening and shortening patterns. And let me show you how I would do that. So we have the lengthen and shorten line right here on this sleeve. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this arrow this way. And let's say I want to lengthen this by 1.5 inches. Okay, about 1.5 inches. And you could adjust this as much as you need. Okay. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut everything on the top of the pattern. Okay. Up to this length and shorten line. We're not going to cut the bottom. We have drawn this line. And now it says move the PDF length by the length of the line. The arrow is going this way, so it's going to move the pattern this way. Whatever way the arrow is facing is the way it's going to move the pattern. It's going to shift it down. Okay, see it, and I can go back. So if I cut everything out the top and then I click on this, it's going to shift it down, and you can continue cutting it out, and you've lengthened that pattern. Just do the opposite if you need to shorten it, but that's kind of a quick overview of that line tool, which is very useful. The most useful tool you're going to find. You can't find that in Adobe Acrobat Reader or most PDF readers. It's a really amazing tool for pattern projecting. The last feature that I haven't gone over is this stitch menu, and this is a whole tutorial on its own. In fact, I highly recommend you go ahead and watch this next tutorial that's going to show you how to use this stitch menu.
If you've enjoyed this video today, then I think you're going to absolutely love this video, which is going to go over how to use the stitch function in Pattern Projector. That's right, you can use those print at home PDF files right inside Pattern Projector and project them onto your fabric. Make sure to check out this video. I think you're really going to love it. And if you've enjoyed this video, give me a like and a subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me today.